Greeting, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our reflection for the 25th week of Ordinary Time. Our first reading is taken from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 6 to 9. The second reading is taken from Philippians chapter 1, verses 20 to 24 and 27. And our gospel reading is taken from Matthew chapter 20, verse 1 to 16. At the center of Judaism as a religion is a particular understanding of chosenness and exclusivity. This means that the Jews believed that they are the chosen nation. The problem with this kind of understanding is that it leaves out all the other people, especially those who are unfortunate enough not to be Jews. The prophet Isaiah begins to open up the Jewish understanding of God's salvation by making them realize in his prophecy that we find in the first reading today that God's call is ever open and it is not too late. Now, this is a very beautiful message for us, especially in our world today, whereby we may believe that it is too late. And I remember that there is one saint who said that the devil makes us sin by making sin seem so simple. And after sinning, the devil makes us stay in sin by making reconciliation with God seem so impossible. But the prophet Isaiah tells us otherwise today, that instead of reconciliation being impossible, it is always possible, and it is never too late. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, now is the time to turn to the Lord again. No matter how far we have fallen in our faith, we can still reconcile with God. In the gospel reading for today, Jesus takes this understanding further by telling the story which for sure scandalized those who were around him. In this story, we can clearly see that Jesus is reminding the people that the salvation of God, the kingdom of God, is not necessarily something that we can merit. We cannot merit salvation. There is nothing we can do that can ultimately put us in a position where we can say we have merited salvation. Then, how do we need to understand salvation? Salvation is a gift, a free gift that God gives in his own goodness. This means that salvation primarily is open to all. Salvation primarily is meant for all, even those who come at the 11th hour. So, my dear brothers and sisters, again, the message is clear. It is never too late. Remember that the laborers who came at the 11th hour were paid the same as those who came at the first hour. Therefore, we always and still have the opportunity to turn back to God. Many times the reason we fail to turn back to God is because we are afraid that we are too far deep in sin. We are too far fallen. And we can get this understanding when we compare ourselves to others. But St. Paul reminds us in the second reading of today that the only measure of our goodness and the only measure of whether we are going to get salvation or not is Jesus Christ himself. So, my dear brothers and sisters, instead of us comparing ourselves to others, let us look at the Lord and let us develop faith of the gospel that St. Paul talks about in the second reading. Let us take this week to reflect on our lives, to draw closer to God, and to remind each other that it is never too late. Have a blessed week.